in.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
That's no move.
We're all fine here now, thank you. How are you?
Welcome to the Star Wars Nerds podcast. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And we're finally here, Kenton. We're finally at the end of The Acolyte. Episode 8 has dropped on Disney Plus. I had to watch it twice because I was so confused.
What an adventure it's been.
I was like, wait, what happened? And I had to go back and rewind. Even at the second time around, I still had to go back and rewind to remember what happened at a certain point. I'll talk about that in a second.
You see, Dan, Warwick Davis is walking through the woods with some preteens. I don't know. It's all a blur.
Well, it is, and it did kind of feel a bit like that Willow series you're talking about, because it all feels kind of like a mess. It was very scattered, and in the end, we didn't get a lot of closure on a lot of it. There was a lot of loose threads because they clearly intend to continue this story in a second season. There's no other explanation for as many kind of things hanging as they left. And I don't know that anybody wants the second season of this series if it's going to continue to be this bad.
Well, Dan, it's so funny because I mentioned on a previous podcast how, I watched some YouTube reactions to the episodes, and what's heartening and disheartening at the same time is the number of just very nice YouTubers out there who really do love this show and who really are impacted emotionally by it, and who saw things in this episode that made them happy and that filled them with joy. And so I watched some of those reactions, and I think, is my heart cold and dead at this point?
Not at all. I'm having the same reaction as you.
Yeah.
I don't feel anything.
No,
even
me
as
neither.
the characters are breaking down on screen, bawling. I'm like, what is happening here? I'm as cold as ice during this. We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Maybe,
okay.
Yeah, but maybe you and I are just heartless and cold podcasters.
Yeah, we could be.
But I saw some grumpy old men who seem to like it too. However, I have seen people not like it. But mostly, I love the positivity of the people who do like it. So part of me, I feel bad. Something inside me tells me we should like it more, and yet I can't get myself there.
No,
I can't drag myself.
We are getting ahead of ourselves. I did want to start by talking about it for the third week in a row. I think we're talking about losing another Hollywood legend. And this week, of course, it's someone I know is close to you. You love this person. You've been a fan of this person your whole life. Bob Newhart passed away. Kenton, how do you feel?
I love Bob Newhart. I've seen Bob Newhart live. I saw him at the concert hall. I took my picture with his statue in Chicago at Navy Pier.
Yep.
And I went on a lone walk to North Chicago. It was further away than I thought when I set out on the walk. Not that I took the cab back, so it wasn't that bad. But I went to the apartment that was the exterior for the Bob Newhart show. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of his TV shows and him as a comedian. I've got actually behind me, look at all my CDs behind me. Yep. I've got Bob Newhart's comedy CDs, including his breakthrough as a comedian was The Button Down Mind of Bob Newhart. And I got that, and the amazing thing is how he's a slow burn. He talks slowly. He does one-sided conversations. The audience has the utmost patience. This is 1960s. Has the utmost patience for his jokes. It's just a different time, but I still play it, and I still find it hilarious. His commitment to the bit.
Yeah,
is unbelievable.
Very dry delivery. Yeah. You're not sure where he's going with a lot of very long and convoluted story. You're not, but it's always hilarious. The ending is always funny. So you kind of build that reputation of being able to deliver on the comedy, right? And he had two really well received series on TV. You're talking about his first series that was set in Chicago, where he was married to Suzanne Plachette. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bob Newhart Show.
Right. And I was too young to remember that one. But for me, I very much did watch the second series when he's an owner of an inn in Connecticut or something like that, kind of like a Holiday Inn kind of vibe. But that's where we get such great characters as Larry, Daryl, and George, the handyman, and Peter Scolari was on that too. He was excellent on that show. That was an excellent cast.
Julia
Duffy?
That was
my Bob. Yes, Julia Duffy. That was my Bob Newhart show. It was just called Newhart, right? That one was just called Newhart.
That I love that show too, though. I really do love that show. And maybe for the one of the most famous and best series finales of all time, where Bob and this can't be a spoiler.
No, go ahead.
50 years, well, how many years? 40 years after the fact, where in which he wakes up next to Suzanne Plachette, his TV wife from the first series, and comments on what it's like. I had the weirdest dream. There's these woodsmen, and he's like describing the show, putting
Yeah,
down
the whole
his
thing
own
was a
show.
dream from his other show. That was
Ah,
awesome. That was so
oh,
fun.
it's so. And when Bob Newhart did played the concert hall here, when was that? That must have been 20, maybe even before 2012. Because Bob still had a youthful spring in his step when he was here, but he showed that finale on a screen when he did stand up. Like he had a couple clips that he showed people, and that was one of them because I
Yeah.
think people loved it so much
Mm,
that it's kind of fun to relive the moment with the guy, in the room.
for sure.
So yeah, that's what a tough one. Bob
Yeah.
Newhart, the best.
I know. Rest in peace. He will be missed. And I'll probably try and find that series though on DVD. I'll add that to the list because I'm sure you can find it other places. I don't even know he could stream it anywhere right now, but
Dan, I think I have all the seasons of Bob Newhart on DVD, which I would be happy
oh,
to loan you. But
very cool.
I'm pretty sure I have all of them. But there was one season where I used to use a clip in class where it's Bob appearing on a TV show to talk about being a therapist, and uh, and he doesn't realize it's a hostile interview. So he shows up, and the woman's all nice to him, and then the camera comes on, she goes on the attack, and Bob he's like doesn't know how to respond. It's so funny. So that particular one, I don't know if everything I bring to school, I ultimately donate to the cause. Hey, can I borrow that? And I never see it again.
Yeah, I'm
So,
familiar. It happens to
so
me
I'm
too.
not, I don't know for sure that I have that season, but I'll look.
That's okay. I will. Yeah, that would be great. But I do want to revisit that, and certainly that first series I've never seen. Maybe an episode here or there, but I certainly haven't watched it all the way through. Okay, so let's move on to the Acolyte. The final episode is here. And wow, and I would say it might be the best episode of the series just because a lot of stuff happens in it. A lot more happens in this episode than in any other single episode, I think. But I don't understand a lot of what happened, and so many questions are left unanswered that I'm just left frustrated by this whole thing, right? I just feel like it was all a waste. I would like to see it continue from here now, whereas I wouldn't have wanted to see anything that came before, right? It
No.
just feels like it was all kind of like it was like a prequel, really, to the whatever they're intending to happen next, which we'll probably never see, I think.
Yeah, I think it was too little fan service too late. But once again, the most frustrating thing about this show is that there are promising pieces in this puzzle. And it's just through not great writing and it must be said acting
Yep.
again, it must be
Yep.
said through
It should be.
some couple quality control issues weighing down what would otherwise could be a really great show.
I think it's more than just bad writing and bad acting. I think there's structural issues. I think we
Oh,
see the
yeah.
structural issues. Maybe that is the writing, but it's just like
Mhm.
we see like the reason for things happening, and it doesn't. It means nothing to me. And I'll give you an example in a second. But we start off this episode with Osha putting on the helmet, right? She puts on the sensory deprivation helmet, the cortosis helmet, to find out what it is. And we never see, well, I guess she describes what she sees, but we never get to see her vision. It's funny that they showed us that
Yeah.
like first person view of like the helmet
Yeah.
going on, and then we never see what her actual first person view is inside the helmet. That's it. We just kind of take her word for whatever she saw, and she's only under it for a few minutes because what's his name is trying to get her out of it, right?
Yeah. Well, he's the one who said put it on.
Yes. And then
Like,
he's trying to get her out of it.
and then
She
he
starts screaming, and he's upset. He's concerned for her.
right. The Sith Lord who's concerned. The Sith Lord should be standing in the corner going, hey, this is unfolded exactly the way I want it to. Not like this, whatever this Sith 2.0 guy is.
Well,
Like, I guess maybe he's a Kylo Ren, at the beginning of the Knights of Ren or something everybody keeps saying. But I just, have we ever seen a Sith act as wussily as this guy does in this episode?
Yeah,
Like
no, I don't
never.
think so. I don't think so. Because I don't. You're right. I don't think he thinks he's a Sith, but maybe he's not, or he's just not acting in a way consistent with what other Sith characters have acted in the past. Right? They're just completely. And there's something stopping him. And so my question was, who keeps him away at that moment where it's like. He can't, something's stopping him force wise, right? And they're very much use that sound effect with the force now. Every single time we hear the force, we know it's being used. And I guess we're meant to believe it's her keeping him away, but I didn't get that impression. I thought there's something else there keeping him from getting the helmet off of her in that moment, right?
I'm not sure. Like it's just one of many I don't knows. I
Okay.
don't know.
Well, I
I don't
thought that
know.
that was
And
what that was supposed to be.
but I'm with you in terms of why show us the point of view in the prior episode, looking through the eye sockets and listening to the breathing. Why show us that? Like that's a good place to start this episode, and then to show us, and the Sith would probably, whatever it was she saw, and she says she saw something, but we should see what she saw because it's probably from the warped Sith perspective. It's probably all screwed up and all
But
warped over.
ultimately, what she saw did come to pass.
Right.
So
Well,
she saw
but
she had a vision of the future, right? That's what she said, and that's what what's his name says.
yeah,
Now, his does he have a name? Because throughout this episode, I noticed he's just called the Stranger in all the subtitles. They always call him the Stranger, so I was confused as to what the subtitles were talking about. But you keep calling him a name.
come here.
Is that his
That's how
name?
he, well, that's his fake name that he gave
Oh, at the beginning
at
when
the
he was
beginning.
pretending not to
So
be.
I assume that his real name was Kamir. And then now he has no name because he's been kicked out of the Jedi.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. So Kamir is, for lack of a better, like it's like calling him the stranger is like calling Baby Yoda the child. Like Lucasfilm wanted us to do it and nobody did.
Right, right. Everyone went Baby Yoda. Yeah,
Right.
that's true. Okay,
Right.
yeah. Nobody picked up on that one. That's fine. But I was like, when we see them kind of arguing, I'll come back to the other scenes in a second, but he finally gets her out of the helmet and she sees this thing and she's like, well, I can change it. She wants to go. It's very, very reminiscent of like Luke and Yoda on Dagobah. He has a vision of the future and he wants to go and help his friends. And so her motivation at that time seems to be, I want to go help May, right? That's kind of what she's trying to do, which is weird because she shows up there later and she's really angry at May, which is very confusing to me.
The
You know,
the twins. Oh, sorry, they're not twins.
no,
They're
they're
the
the same
same
person as
person.
was confirmed, but not
Yeah.
not explained how they are the same
No.
person. Like not
Well,
clones. Nobody said the C word, but some other thing using some mysterious thing using the Force. Sorry, go
they're
ahead.
twins because they don't feel the same thing. They don't see what the other one sees. They for lack of a better way to describe it, they are twins. They're born of the same cells or whatever, but they don't, it's not like they have special powers that where the two can see through each other's eyes or something like
Sure.
that. So, but once again, the confusion throughout this entire series is what are their motivations? Why are these their motivations? Why do they keep changing their motivations? And how are we as an audience supposed to feel about it? Who
Yeah,
knows?
and I was even saying, and then as they're leaving, they're like as they're leaving, as soon as she wakes up, comes out of the helmet, she seems to be in charge. She's like, no, we're gonna go find them and we're gonna go back to get them. And then like she's leading the way and he's following her, and he's
Yeah.
almost like kind of like becoming submissive to her. And he's like, would you ever you really need to be trained? Would you ever consider like the way she says it is
Yeah.
so awkward. And she's like, no, I would never. And then she does go back on that by the end of this episode. Like
Yeah.
even then within this one episode, she goes immediately back on something she says. So maybe that's deliberate. Maybe this wishy-washiness has been deliberate with this character throughout the entire series. And now like she finally makes a decision at the end, and that's the point of it. I don't know.
But why wouldn't he, like we've seen him strike down Jedi after Jedi.
He killed our favorite characters in the show.
Yeah,
right?
he is a bloodthirsty murderer, and he's clearly in charge in the previous episode where he's leading her down the Sith path. And then suddenly in this one, you're right, he seems like he's, we'll do whatever you want, kind of thing, which is very why would that be? Why wouldn't he just say, like in the prior episode, he said, you can get to my ship, you if you want to, or you could just stay here, kind of thing. And if it really is a choice, then she should have, and at that point, her character would have just gone if she was free to do so, I think. But I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't know how putting the helmet on changed her motivations.
No.
And then we see the what's his name? Who is it that's peeking out from the cave, Kenton, in that scene when they're walking away? Who is it? Tell me.
Yes, we see the creepy hand and face of Darth Plagueis.
Now, has that been confirmed that that's who that is? Okay.
Yeah, I think the next day, somebody, maybe Leslie Headland herself, confirmed that that's who it is. And I could tell, I knew from there's books and whatnot. They're everybody always shares. I think it was a book cover of who the guy we know, Emperor Palpatine before he was Emperor rather Palpatine, kneeling down before the big face of Plagueis, and that's kind of, this face looks similar to that.
Like one red eye, is that the thing?
Oh, did he have a red eye? I didn't notice that.
I saw one red eye and yeah, creepy hands, and that's pretty much it. Yeah. So what I take from that is that he's been the one directing the stranger to back off. That's kind of what I took from that. Is that he was the one keeping him from accessing, like saying from keeping the helmet, taking the helmet off of her until she could see her vision. So he wanted her to see her vision and to go off to help her sister, and then the Plagueis told this guy to back off and let her kind of lead the way.
Maybe
that's what happened, and then they just left. They go off, right?
Maybe he was tracking them, or maybe he was watching from afar, or maybe he just woke up in this cave and like
who are these people?
What? Yeah, exactly. We have no context for any of it, but I thought this was a moment where if the show earned that moment, it would be whoa, holy. But it was just, once again, oh, look, here's Darth Plagueis. All right, next.
But the thing is, I had no idea of knowing who that is, or there'd been no mention of this person's name or anything. Like, they didn't set up with the story of Darth Plagueis, and they cannot assume people watching the show are gonna know who that is, right? So that's just kind of, I just feel like they could have mentioned him at some point if we're meant to know who that is. So I think he's just meant to be this mysterious person at some point, and now for them to confirm outside the story is stupid. It's fucking stupid, right? They need to tell us in the story that this is who this is. So it means nothing to me otherwise. It's just a mysterious person that's watching them from behind the scenes. But I assume is orchestrating this whole shift in power dynamic that we're seeing here between the two of them.
Yeah, perhaps, or watching it unfold, or tracking one or both of them, or he's after the twins. I mean, it could be lots of different motivations there. He looked cool, I'll give it that. It was a cool design for him.
Well, for the second that we saw him on screen, but otherwise, I'm pretty disappointed. If he's meant to be the big bad that we're afraid of for next season, I'm pretty disappointed that that's all we saw, because that might be all we see.
I don't think we needed the spindly fingers coming out of the cave, like, oh, there's something in the cave, spindly fingers.
Yeah, a little much.
You know,
now on the other side of this, that we kind of jump back and forth, but they're also with May and Soul, who are like going back to the planet where this all Brendock, where this all happened, where he killed her mother and all that other stuff happened with the witches. And so they're going back, and she's like tied to the table. And he's like, monologuing about stuff and going on about this and that. And it's really weird to me how that character shifted from like a good guy to a bad guy. Like, it really felt like he was like he's turning evil in this moment, right? I felt like he was a Bond villain almost.
Well, I don't know. Once again, I don't know. When you're watching this unfold. And I think this might be one of my least favorite scenes in the whole series, because he's got her, once again, it relies on people being stupid and not saying what they actually need to say. And she does the classic, oh, my pip droid is just going to unlock, like, he can't sense that. A Jedi can't sense that. And then she tases him. A taser works on a Jedi. Just so dumb. Just
Well, even but she
absolutely.
couldn't wait one more second for him to finish his
Yeah.
sentence. She had to tease him at the end. You are not twins. You are
Yeah.
like, come on. Like, wait to finish what he has to say. He's giving you good information here, me. Like, come on. And that
Yeah.
was just done for dramatic purpose. And this is what I'm talking about. We see the structure of the story. The structure of the actions means to distract us and draw it out. And that continues as she escapes on the escape ship, which is something we've never heard of before in Star Wars. It's not
Oh,
just
the
an
escape
escape
pod.
pod. It's not a
Yeah.
pod, it's a ship,
Yeah.
which means that she can control it, but she
Right.
doesn't have hyperspace. Remember, I wish this thing had hyperspace. Like, let's make sure we establish that so people aren't questioning why she doesn't just flip out of there. And then she leads him on this chase that ends up going
Yeah.
through the rings, which is cool to see. And that's
Yeah.
that's a trailer shot, right? Was that from
Yeah.
the trailer? So
It
that's another
was.
trailer shot there. Are we done with the trailer now, finally? Because all the
Well,
episodes are done. We
I
must
think
be.
that this is the first time I think that we ever had shots in the trailer for the last episode.
Okay, there you go.
In a
So they showed us
trailer.
the entire thing beforehand. But the whole thing ends up with, like, they go through the rocks and it's cool to see and they're bumping around and stuff, but we still end up with her hurling to the ground of the planet and being quote unquote shipwrecked. So effectively a escape pod would have been the same thing, but the only reason they make it a ship is so we can have that fun little chase through the rings. So that's
Yeah.
the structure I'm talking about. I don't care about any of that because I know exactly what we're going to get to. We get to the planet, and by the way, that's a crash landing is never fatal in Star Wars. A crash landing just means you land a little bit more roughly and you're okay, right?
It's
You're
like,
not going to get killed or maimed or hurt badly in a crash from space as you would here.
it's like getting stabbed with a lightsaber in
Yes,
Ahsoka.
that's right.
It has no meaning.
That's right. You're okay
Yeah.
the next day.
And by the way,
Oh.
we have to talk about Basil's motivation.
Yes. Yeah.
He
Okay.
turned on a dime and now he's working against Master Soul.
Why?
Why?
I don't know. That was my question for you. I say, why would Basil sabotage the ship?
There is no answer to that. It's ridiculous.
Basil all of a sudden realizes that Soul is a bad guy.
Why did he rat out May in the previous episode?
Exactly. Basil's
What?
confusing. And then he goes and leads all the Jedi to hunt out whatever that
Yeah.
happens later on. That's confusing too. But we'll get to that.
Yes. What that motivation for Basil makes zero sense. And I didn't buy Master Soul. Like, I buy that he feels emotional about everything that's gone down and he wants to unload the burden that he's been holding inside all that time. But I don't buy that he's some villain or that he's at that point, he's not even murderous. I don't think. I think he's just trying to track to like get.
Well, he killed the mother. He still did kill the mother, right? We
Right.
established that.
Well,
So
yeah, but she turned into a spooky specter, and it was disintegrating the girl in front of him, and so he ignited his lightsaber, and it works on smoke. I think we all would have been surprised
well, fair
in that
enough.
scenario. I just don't think I don't buy what this show is trying to sell us. I think
Right.
which is he's a terrible murderer. Like, if at best it was a misunderstanding that it was manslaughter. It was manslaughter.
Well, and it certainly bears an investigation, but like, let's go back to the Jedi Council and tell them and be straight up with them. Why are we hiding it, right? Why are we hiding all this stuff is the question. So before we move on, though, I do want to stop and talk about, because we do check in with Venestra, the green lady, who is basically Soul's boss. And she's doing a lot of covering up. There's something weird going on with her because she's all freaking out. The guy comes. I love this guy. He's so funny. This guy, he's like the assistant. Oh, Venestra, Master Venestra. What's his name? Senator Rayon Cart. What did
the
I
guy
write
with the
down
big
there?
hair, the skinny guy with the big hair.
Oh, he's so good. I said he's awesome. The senator that shows up to like take her to task, the guy who's going to investigate the Jedi. This guy is a great actor. I love him. He's in he's Martian Manhunter in like the DC
Right.
TV shows, but he's been in other stuff. He's very, very good. And I immediately love this character because he's showing up and he's calling her out on what's going on. Why have you not been telling us about this murder investigation? Multiple victims. Like, he's acting completely, he's like the most realistic character we've had so far in this situation, right? He's acting as he should, as an elected official who's concerned about something going on and he doesn't know. And she completely just stonewalls him, like doesn't even answer his question, just goes, "That's it, bye," and like shoves him out the door. That's just crazy to me. What is going on with her?
That I know that. Well, one thing that's going on with her is she has no charisma at all. Like, she is a charisma vacuum. She is, I don't know what she is, but she is not, I don't find that character in the least bit interesting. I don't understand, once again, just like all the characters. Okay, the motivations to, I think, to protect the Jedi at all
I don't now. I
costs.
don't know though. Now,
I don't,
given what happens in this, because then we see her like a few scenes later, she's talking on the phone. I need to talk to him. Give me a hold. Who is she trying to get a hold of in that moment? Is she trying to get a hold of Darth Plagueis? Right?
it's
Is he the one coordinating all of this? Is he like an emperor figure in the background? Is that the question we're supposed to be asking at this point? Who do you think she's talking to there?
not a clue. I
Okay.
don't know. The show gives us nothing to hang our hat on here. It's all a big question mark. I
But
don't know.
later on she senses the presence of what's his name and says, oh, I thought he was dead. So we assume there's some kind of history between those two, and maybe there's also history between her and Plagueis. Like, you don't seem convinced that Plagueis is the master of the
No,
stranger. But you're the one who said there was always you were convinced there was
yeah,
a bigger master in the background, and you were right, but you
yeah.
don't think they're working together.
I don't know. The show does not give us enough to go
Okay, I see
on.
what you're
It gives
getting at. I
us
see what you're
nothing.
getting at. You're like,
It gives us
there's no
nothing.
evidence of
No,
anything at this point.
there's right. It's fan service cameo that gives us nothing. That doesn't progress this. I mean, it makes us go, oh, cool, huh? And so he could be Kamira's master. He could be just tracking him. He could be after the twins. He could be. Who the hell knows? He could have a different apprentice. He could have a master. Like, it's
But now
just,
I'm seeing all these clickbait articles. I've not clicked
yeah,
on any of them that say there's a direct line from this guy to Anakin to like show how Anakin could have been created based on what's happening in this show. Is that
could
something that's
be
valid?
possible. Like, I mean, he could be after the twins to find out how they were created, so he can figure out how to create life. Remember,
That's the
Palpatine?
story. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So that was his obsession. So it makes sense that he could be doing that. But once again, wouldn't it be cool to have Darth Plagueis show up in episode 2
Wouldn't
like
that be a
that?
better
And
series than the one we got?
oh yeah,
That's right.
because
I keep thinking that.
now,
Yeah.
yeah, because now we have something. Now the surprises and the mystery can be: does Kamir know this guy? Does this guy know Kamir? Are they working together? Are they not working together? And then all of this comes together in the finale, and then you get your payoff, and eh, people reveal their cards, show their
Right,
cards,
right.
and
Yes.
it could be a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah. But instead we just get all these questions, and it's
Yeah.
very clear. Again, they left all this stuff hanging. But even so, I'm getting ahead of ourselves. So Videstra, now they run into another elevator problem. I made a note of that. They're having
Yes.
problems with elevators in this
So
show.
many.
So many issues. And then, but not for the stranger. He just disappears somehow. A lot of people disappearing on people in this episode as well,
Tons.
which is easy to forget. It's easy to forget what happens to a character when they just disappear.
Yeah.
So you're left questioning, wait a minute, when did I see the character last? This is what happened to me several times. But we get, like, basically they're all kind of running around in this castle at different points. They've all split up now. The twins are now split up, and the other two guys are split up. So we've got Soul and the stranger, who end up running into each other, and we get a good lightsaber battle. For what it's worth, it's fun, it's interesting, it's good techniques and stuff, it's different. We have his cool little lightsaber. That was a neat twist.
Yeah.
I like to see
Cool.
that kind of stuff. Right? And did you notice that when he puts them together, his blade is longer? Like somehow that extra thing adds to the blade, so he has a slightly longer. That's cool. I like that.
I agree.
They're adding something new to kind of Star Wars. But I also noticed that his helmet didn't really come into play, and his whole thing where he gets to turn off lightsabers, which was on. I noticed on his lightsaber, he's got the cortosis, he's got the metal.
Yeah.
So that's what it's meant to do. He hits the lightsaber and it turns it off. He didn't use it once during this whole thing, right? And the helmet really ultimately didn't do anything for him, for being honest. All it did was shield him from what's her name for a few minutes until he ends up taking the helmet off anyway,
Right,
under
I
his own
know.
volition. So that was
It's
a little weird.
It's a plot helmet. It's a plot helmet that only works when it's required for
Right,
the
that's
for
right.
plot
For the
purposes.
plot, yes. I did make a note
Oh.
here. It was very Matrixy, like when they jump out the window and they're in slow-mo, and there's like it did really feel like the Matrix. I wish Carrie-Anne Moss was in that scene. She would have been more fitting for her to be there.
I was actually thinking Crouching Tiger, Hidden
Oh, yes,
Dragon,
that
where
too.
they're floating in the air. There's a little more floaty stuff going on,
Yeah.
than what we've ever seen before. But I was, at this moment in time, I was cheering for Master Soul. and he was handing Kamir his ass. He was beating him
I didn't know who to
handedly.
cheer for, to be honest. I was like, I
Right.
don't know, because Kamir seems to be a good guy sometimes too. So, and they're both like very, very conflicted. So I just was kind of watching it for the sake of watching it, not really and really like either one of them could have won, and I would have been okay, like fine. Like they were pretty evenly matched, and I think that was meant to be the case. So, however that ended, and it didn't end up ending. Again, I'm kind of confused on what's going on, but again, we're cutting back and forth from them, and this is another Star Wars trope that we've seen. We've seen it done much better as well, cutting between different fights, because like you go from like he winds up and slashes down, and then we cut to the twins talking,
Oh,
and then like they talk for 5 minutes, and then we cut back to and then we're immediately back to the slashes of that other fight, and the pacing of it just seems jarring. But then the twins start fighting, and so then
terrible. That was terrible fight.
but my question is, why are they fighting? Why are the twins fighting? It just like they're having a conversation, and one of them says, "I'm so angry at you." I just start screaming and hitting her, and that's it. There's no real reason for them to be fighting,
No.
other than that one of them is really, really angry at the other one, and not really listening to the other one, right? Because she's trying to tell her the truth of what happened, and she's just no, it's all your fault. Soul told me everything, and that dialogue is so awkward in that scene. Like when she says, "Soul tried to tell me that someone like you could do the things that you were capable of, but I couldn't live up to I didn't even know." It was so awkward. That dialogue is like, nobody talks like that. I couldn't live up. I let my negative emotions control me, so I couldn't be a Jedi. And oh my God, it's just awful, right?
But once again, what does it even mean? Like, what are the motivations, and why do they keep changing? And
So what I think is that she failed at being a Jedi because she had too much negative emotions going through her head from what happened at the castle. That was haunting her. But don't they train you to get rid of those negative, like in Jedi training? And they're, of course, they're going back to the old, "Oh, you're too old to be trained" trope, which is another thing we've seen many times before. Too old to begin the training, yet we've seen every single Jedi in our character in this series has been trained while they've been too old, right? That just as always happens. What are they supposed to train them at birth, right? Or when they're toddlers, I guess is what we've seen before. But that's always bad. Anyway,
so what? Yeah, so they fight each other. That's a bad fight. I
it's a
didn't
bad
care for
fight,
that
and
fight.
there's no reason for
Yeah,
it, right? And they're
no.
just like, and then this is where I had to kind of go back to, because one of them shows up in the middle of the other fight, and I'm like, wait a minute, what
Oh,
happened? Like, what happened to that other fight? Because they're cutting back and forth, and then they get distracted by the ship. I had to go back and look. They get
yeah.
distracted by the ship. They both look up. Oh, look, there's a ship. And then she looks away, and the other one's disappeared. I'm like, wait, which one disappeared? Because they've changed clothing at this point. They're wearing the opposite outfits that they wore at the beginning, and they both have short hair. So now they basically look identical. And it's like, I can't tell which one is which. So I had to kind of go back and make sure, okay, this one's May, this one's Osha. And so May disappears when the ship shows up and leaves Osha alone. And then she immediately makes a beeline to where the stranger and Soul are fighting. And basically Soul's got him at his mercy, right? He just takes his helmet and puts his neck up, like, go ahead and kill me. And Soul's just sitting there with the freaking blade. Like, what's he doing there? Is he supposed to be struggling with the dark side in that moment? Is that what we're supposed to be feeling? I don't understand.
Well, I took it to mean like a Jedi isn't gonna do what a Sith does. And so even if you want to do, like, even Luke didn't strike down Vader.
Right.
Like in the end, to show like I'm a Jedi. I'm not like I'm not going to do what a Sith would do in the same situation. And so I sort of took a little bit of that, but once again, it's more about the plot, because right away, and once again, a Sith Lord doesn't act like a Sith Lord in this show, because now it's just, now I'm going to have a conversation. Osha shows up, and once again, I don't care. I'm so sick of these twins at this point, and it is hard for the audience to tell who's who. It's the same actor.
Mhm.
So you don't know. I really didn't care. I kept thinking the show was going to pull one more switcheroo on us. So I kept thinking the person saying she's Osha is probably May, etc. So you've got that going on at the same time. But then you just have Kamir, the stranger, standing there and just listening to the conversation.
And
Like,
letting
what?
everything happen
Yeah,
that's happening, right? And just
yeah.
just
Huh.
being like, it seems so weird. So it's like we have May confronting Soul and saying, "How could you do this?" And then basically forcing her to confess what she already knows, because she was there when he killed her mother. May was the one who was there, and Osha wasn't. So Osha doesn't. Osha's the one that's been lied to, and so Soul and they build it. I know they're trying to build it to this big moment where he finally confesses that he
Yeah.
killed her, but we all saw him kill her, so it's not this big moment. We're like, okay, good, he said it out loud. He finally said the thing out loud that he did, and oops. Osha overheard it. Oh, and like there's I don't know. I didn't feel anything in that moment. I'm like, okay, good. So now Osha knows, and now everything's out in the open. And I didn't think he'd really. In the end, it's an accident. I'm sorry that I killed your mom. It was like totally my fault, but nothing we can do about it now, except maybe there is because Osha does something about it, and that's real. I was really disappointed with how that ended, how that ended up happening, all that stuff.
Well, first and once again, Master Soul does not say what he should say in that moment, which is, I came to that planet with noble intentions. You were part of this coven of witches, and I was concerned for your safety. You wanted to become a Jedi, and I wanted that for you as well. And it's one of your mothers didn't want you to do the thing you wanted to do, and I was there to help you to do it. Your mother turned into a smoke specter. I don't know what that is, and I didn't know I could hurt smoke with my lightsaber, but then I found out that I could. Like, and I feel terrible about it. Like, there's nothing, there's no background, and she
Yeah.
even says to him, um, stop your talking. I'm sick of hearing you talk. Well, he's giving you the information
Yeah.
that you need to understand. I'm sick of hearing you give me the information I need. Is like, it's pointless.
Yeah.
And then it also occurred to me, is the entire point of this show, because at the very beginning they drop, Kamir says to her, could you must learn how to kill a Jedi without a weapon.
Right.
And so she chokes him to death. And I was like, wow, this whole show is the origin of the Sith choking people to death. That's what the show was.
Maybe that's it. And we meant to go, oh, she's doing the thing that Darth Vader did in the
Yeah.
movie. Is that what we're supposed to say in that moment?
She invented it, the Force choke. Like, who cares?
But it's drawn out so long. And I don't
Horrible.
feel her, like, if she's supposed to be filled with rage and filled with the dark side as it's happening, which is evidence, like, I guess, by she's holding his lightsaber and the crystal turns red in that moment. So we're supposed to see how that happens, how all their lightsabers turn red. And then, so she's like, but there's just drawn out, and he's like, and it's almost like he gives her permission to kill him. He's like, go ahead and do it, or whatever he says. And it's like, well, what was the point of any of that? If he's okay with dying, like he just wants it to be over because he feels so bad about everything and he wants to be dead, I guess. But it's just like, I didn't want her to kill him. I wanted her to like say, okay, never mind, I won't kill you. Let's stay on the good side of the Force here, even though I'm flirting with the dark side, and work this out together. And instead she just fucking kills him. Like, that's it, and nobody stops her. No, everyone's sitting around here watching, and Kamir or whoever can sit there and stop her, and nobody does. They all just let her kill him.
And I thought, once again, I guess that's her turn to the dark side. I guess.
Yes, that is meant to be the turn to the dark side.
But shouldn't Kamir be encouraging her? Like, this is the only way you can make things right again, is to kill him. This is the only way you can achieve what you wanted to achieve, and with the Force power that
you need that in her head. We need him talking, and it's just like the Emperor in the throne room, right? He's talking to Darth Vader, and he's trying to convince him, and that's what we do need some more reason for her to do what she does. Because she's not like just finding out in the moment that he killed her mom without finding out, and he doesn't even know about the ghost stuff, right? You're like you said, he should explain the whole thing. She doesn't know that she turned into a ghost. She doesn't know any of the circumstances around. All she has is him confessing to actually killing her, and that's it. And that's enough for her to choke him to death. And I don't believe that for a second, that should be enough. She should.
How does Kamir even know about any of that stuff?
I don't know.
He wasn't there.
No, I know, but then we do get to see what happened to May and how she got out of that situation. Oh boy, what did I love this sequence when they're like, "Follow me. We have to go down here." Is this where you went? Yes, this is where I went. Did you really do this? Yes, I really did this. I found this tunnel. I crawled through this tunnel. Like, it's just so awkward the way they talk their way through that whole situation. Then what did you do? And then they're like, it's just stop it. I hated all of that. I wanted, and so yes, we find out what happened. She crawled out of a tunnel and she went to wait by the tree. But then we don't know what happened after that, because we don't know. We don't see what's his name come and meet her or pick her up or anything. We just said she sat by the tree and waited, and nobody came. What? Just makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense. I thought also Osha should have some level of regret after killing Soul, but she had none, and it was more like, oh, good, now things are the way they're supposed to be. Isn't killing somebody with intent, which she has just done, worse than somebody accidentally killing somebody? Like,
Which is what he
you
did,
have
yeah.
committed a worse crime than what he did. So if Soul has any family members out there in the galaxy, they should, if this is the rule we're living by, then they should come and kill you
Yes.
because you killed their family member. Like, it's weird. It's I don't know. Like, what really, like, with Anakin, you're like, oh my God, like, so much happened, and he realizes there's no turning back now. Now he's gone too far, and now he's
Yeah.
stuck. But with Osha, you have no such sense.
But also no sense of, like, again, no sense of emotion. I think it's due to the
No,
acting in
no,
a good part from those
yeah,
actors. But when after they get out there, they go to the tree, and then what's his name? I'm gonna keep calling him what's
yeah,
his name because he doesn't seem to have a name. He finds them and says, "Oh, I could find them soaking the Jedi," and so he
yeah.
convinces them that they have to get rid of them. And I have no idea how she gets to the decision she does to say, "You let my sister go, and I'll be your acolyte." Like, how does that
Yeah.
work?
And
Um,
he goes along with the deal.
and
If
he's like, I might be able
Yeah,
to erase her memory. Like, he doesn't even seem that
yeah,
sure of it. Like, there's weird that kind of
yeah.
thing. Like, that was so strange, right?
Yeah, but she comes up with some deal that she might not even have to make, which is the other thing, which is, I'm just going to go with my sister here. You go your way, I'll go mine. Catch you on the rebound. And base everything we've seen of him in this episode, he might just go, "Oh, okay." Or he might say, "No, this is what I want," or "I want both of you to come with me." Or why, like, once again, it's a plot device.
How is it
It's a
better for May
Yeah,
to be left with a no memory of anything since she was a child? And they make a point. I love how, like, the exposition lady makes this
yeah, oh
point,
yeah.
recapping the entire thing for us in
Yes,
case we're not
again.
sure, just to confuse. I'm sure, like, a producer asked for that. Can we please have someone just restate everything so we can be clear about what actually happened here? And so she does that, and then has, like, it's very confusing as to, like, what's actually coming out of this and what's happening with this. She blames everything. She ends up blaming everything on Soul, right? Which is weird. And she says we see him go up to her body, or she goes up to his body and says, "I'm sorry," because she's gonna blame everything
Yeah.
on him. It's like so weird. It's all so strange and
She
confusing to me.
frames him. Yeah,
She
she
frames him
frames
for the
him.
whole thing. So what are her motivations, and how does she know the stranger, right? What's his name? So how does she know him? Is
So,
the
well,
other
I
part
think
of this.
once again, because she recognizes, the second she gets off the ship, she realizes that he's there, and he puts the helmet on, and she's like, okay. And what I was hoping she was gonna do is say, "I whipped your ass with this whip once before, and I'm gonna whoop it again. I'm gonna whip your ass a second time, you little," like,
Right.
I was like, okay, this is gonna be good. Like, go finish the job, lady. That's where I thought it was going. And I thought, good. Like, let's get some. Okay, they took one of ours, let's take one of theirs.
Yeah.
So, I thought that this will be a very interesting dynamic, but no. And I guess he was her Padawan. That's clearly what those whip marks were on his
Yeah.
back when we
You talked
saw him.
about that before.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we forgot to mention the part where the lightsaber changes color and the weird thing
Right,
that
right.
happened there. What did you think of all that?
I did. I felt nothing as like, okay, all right, like,
Is that how that
you.
happens? Didn't happen for Anakin that way. Someone pointed that out.
No, it didn't.
So I don't know.
You
It's
have to
different.
earn it.
They
Back in
thought it was be a cool moment, I think, and again, it didn't really
Yeah.
have the impact they were hoping with me.
Well,
So
once again, it's because these characters have no moral center at all. They just change their minds and everything. So they're as mixed up as characters have ever been. I don't know why they needed to be twins either.
well, we never
I,
really do find out how they are the same person and how that happens. It's
yeah.
another one of the questions they leave open. We also forgot to talk about, like, the manhunt they do. They try. She's like,
Oh,
go form a perimeter to get there. I
yeah.
guess she's just trying to get rid of them. Like, Vanestra's doing some sketchy shit. She's trying to get rid of everybody else so she can do whatever she needs to do to make this go away, I guess is what's supposed to happen. So they all go off, and she's like, here's the tracker. But they end up just following Basil. Basil's nose is what them to the place which
Again.
is hilarious. So they don't need the tracker, but that whole thing just seemed like it's so weird. And again, we have no idea why Vanessa is doing what she's doing. It's all a mystery. There's some kind of thing happening. I guess we're presumably going to find out in the next season, which I do think is not going to happen. There's maybe we'll make a comic book about it or something, but there's not going to be a second season of this show. I don't think so.
If there's a second season of this show, it better be called Plagueis, and it better and the focus better not be like, part of me really wanted. Actually, one of the things I thought would happen is we've already got the idea they're the same person, and I thought the two would somehow meld into one person. That at some
Right.
point, that's what was going to happen. It would be some all powerful, who knows what, but like unleashed in the universe. And then that would wake Plagueis up, or something like that would happen, and then it would justify where we were going next with it. But as it is, we've got these these twins still running around out there. I never want to see another series with them in it, unless it starts with Osha getting decapitated by Plagueis and going, "Now you're my," say to the stranger, "You're my Padawan now," or something like that.
I thought the stranger was going to die. I really thought we were going to lose that guy
Yes,
before the end
I
of the
thought so
series.
too.
That was the death I was expecting, because then we would have Plagueis as the big bad for the next season.
Right.
That would make sense. That would make more sense to me. I don't like we end this. I feel like we should have begun at this point. We see that shot of them sitting there, like she's my acolyte now. That should have been like the opening shot of the series.
Yes.
If the series is called The Acolyte, let's start there and then see what happens when she starts to become an acolyte. We spend all this time learning how she becomes the acolyte, but in the end, it really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I thought the same thing that you did. Let's say the series starts with that shot. We don't know who anybody is. We don't even know, like, this could just be the guy who works at the poison shop still. As we go along, we're like, oh, it's the guy who works at the, and then we discover, oh my God, she's actually standing. But we also wouldn't know which twin it was if we started the series with that. And just think about where you could take that. That would be so much more interesting than whatever this was. It just wasn't interesting. It was a long trailer for what I hope will be a better show.
Well, you do think there's going to get a second season?
I sure hope there isn't. I don't want a second season of The Acolyte. I wouldn't mind seeing something called The Tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, where we see the repercussions of wherever Plagueis is in this show. Who cares? Let's see him with Palpatine as his apprentice at some point in time, which we know was the case. Let's get on it. Let's see that Tragedy of Plagueis the Wise in live action. I think that could be a great show, and that would focus on how the Sith work, not because this show really didn't.
No. Nothing at all. We got one guy who says he's a Sith, but we don't really know because he doesn't have a second. Like, the Sith have always come in twos. Now, I guess we did have a second one. Again, I think they're connected. They're meant to be connected. And I think that guy was Plagueis's apprentice or whatever. And then he is trying to get his own apprentice so he can move out from underneath Plagueis's thumb or whatever. I think that's what that's meant to be. But there's no indication of any of that in this series. Not even the mention of Plagueis. And I think that's a big mistake. Again, they could have sold this as the origin of Plagueis, and we would have been way more interested, and they could have like included him way more in the story, and not the origin of Plagueis maybe, but like a introduction of him, and instead of doing all this mysterious stuff that ultimately doesn't mean anything. And I hate that Star Wars, like, I guess they feel that because of Star Wars, it always has to have some big reveal because of the Luke, I am your father moment, right? Every other Star Wars thing has to have something like that. And it also has to be episodic for some reason. Like, we have to leave it on a cliffhanger, even though the first movie really didn't. The first movie was like a standalone film. And I was talking to my friend about this yesterday, and about how I was telling him this isn't a complete story. They didn't give us an ending. They gave us a cliffhanger, a bunch of different threads that need to be connected. And Star Wars is not good at that, telling a self-contained story. And he pointed to Rogue One being a really good self-contained story because everybody, spoiler alert, dies at the end of Rogue One, right? That is a complete story. All those character arcs come to an end. But at the same time, it does just lead into the very first movie. Like, it starts off the whole thing again and starts you down the Star Wars path, which is exactly what Rogue One is meant to do. So it doesn't really tell it completely.
Well, we still have Andor.
Well, that was, again, that's a prequel. And Andor, again, I think is the best thing that we've had. so far in this, other than The Mandalorian, which has also been very good. But Andor has been a very, very good series that I really enjoyed. Now I'm going to go back to it. I think now that I've had this horrible Star Wars experience, I want to cleanse my palate with some good Star Wars. So I'll be going back to Andor. That is my next thing I'll watch for Star Wars.
And we only didn't talk about the very final scene.
Oh God, yeah, I wrote Yoda exclamation mark. But what a rip. We just got his back of his head. Come on, like just it's just such a tease. It's such a tease, and they have not. I looked it up before we started. They have not confirmed a second season, and therefore I don't think we're getting one because we would have heard it by this point.
Probably.
With all of those threads, all those open-ended things, and if there would have been people like shouting from the rooftops how much they love this series, which has happened with other. Like it happened for Andor, it happened for although a lot of people didn't like it as well, but certainly the Mandalorian people loved universally. That didn't happen here, but they were expecting it and they were ready to go with the second season. It's like I think they got a little cocky. They got a little like self-involved, and like everyone involved obviously thought it was a good show. I don't know. Nobody had the heart to tell them that their dialogue was horrible. I don't know what happened there. It was really weird.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird. The focus, just so much of it. And actually, I also have to say the Yoda puppet looked like it was the wrong age.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Yeah,
the
come
back of
on,
the
guys.
head.
Like he's not that much younger. It's only 100 years. It's not like it's.
Oh, I thought
Or you think he looked too old?
I thought maybe, but well, his hair's all over the place. Like it's like they pulled him out of a garbage bin or something. They pulled the doll out,
And it
they
was really a
didn't.
puppet. It's not CGI. Is that what they did?
I think it's a puppet.
All
It
right.
looked
Well,
like one, but who
for
the hell
1 second on
knows?
screen, who
Yeah.
cares? It's so stupid. I
And
don't like
and
it's this complete fan service.
are we to believe she told Yoda the truth or she lied to Yoda?
I don't know. And I think I suspect she's lying to Yoda, but whatever it is. Or maybe we're meant to believe that Yoda's the person she's trying to get a hold of earlier in the episode when she's like, I need to talk to him. Maybe she's trying to talk to Yoda. Maybe that's who it is. And then she probably gets to talk to him at the end. But what is she telling him about? We can't believe that Yoda wants
No.
anybody like he is non-corruptible, right? Yoda cannot be evil.
She's not in on anything.
She seems like she's sketchy and shady and corruptible, and she's
Yeah.
not a good person. But I don't know. I don't know. I feel like she's gonna lie to him about whatever happened.
Yeah, and maybe we'll never find out, and that's for the bad. I sort of felt bad that they brought such a great character into sort of a substandard Star Wars. Like I was kind of, and I saw a headline that I did not read the article saying we had to fight to get Yoda into our show. I was like, yeah, I'll bet you did. I'll bet you did because I think I would have been very protective of that character too. Frank Oz is nowhere to be found because there was no voice, so it makes me wonder about that.
Wow. They have to recast that at some point, right?
Well, I get, but it's not as long as he's still around.
Is he? Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying he passed away. He's still
No,
around?
no, I'm saying no. Like maybe he decided he wouldn't do this one.
Well, I would imagine he'd be pretty expensive, right, to get Frank Oz to do for a series like this.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This is a $180 million series, they keep saying. And
Jesus.
I know they said it costs just as much as Dune 2, apparently, which is
Wow.
I don't know.
That does not show up on the screen at all.
No, oh no, I know. It's kind of alarming actually. So I guess the next thing we're gonna see for Star Wars is Skeleton Crew. And that's gonna be for kids. So I hope it's good. I hope it's a good one. Because we said we're gonna have a podcast where we do a Star Wars intervention where we talk about like here's what needs to happen. I still think we should do that.
Yeah, we'll do that next episode.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next episode.
I have some ideas about what Star Wars could do to sort of get back the mojo. Now, hey, lots of people like this series, so good. I'm glad lots of people did. But I still think, there's no arguing that the writing could have been improved. And even the concept of what each episode had in it, I think could have been improved too.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, I think that regardless of what you feel about this the series, don't panic. Don't think that Star Wars is going to like fall apart and be awful now because it's always been up and down. It's always been like good and bad. There's always been like the prequels were not. I did not love those prequels, right? And so that's just part of Star Wars. There's going to be ups and downs. It's a roller coaster, and this is just a downward trend. And hopefully, the next thing they come out with, when's the next Mandalorian thing coming out? That'll be good. Like
it'll be the movie.
So that's built up a brand, and that's going to be exciting going to see it in the theater. I think that's something we haven't had before. So hopefully, that can kind of reinvigorate the Star Wars brand a bit.
you know, Winnipeg Comic Con, that's where I went. Holy crap, people love the Mandalorian when they had that
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah.
People, that place was packed,
Yeah.
and
Well, it was a
people
great
were,
panel.
yeah, well, you know, great actors on the panel, but nonetheless, I was still shocked at the degree, the number of people, the passion for the Mandalorian and Grogu. Like people were really excited to be there and to talk about the Mandalorian
Yep.
specifically. So that I do think and I've heard some folks who don't like the Disney Plus shows, they always go, "Well, I love the original trilogy and the Mandalorian." Like it
Okay.
always comes up as being kind of like as good as the
And
original.
we're
And I
not talking
think
about the other movies, the trilogy, the sequel trilogy, or
I
the
know
Solo or Rogue One.
that's tough. Like that's a tough one.
It's 5 movies,
Yeah,
right?
I
More than the original
enjoyed
trilogy.
I enjoyed Solo, and I still enjoy Solo as a fun kind, a little lark sort of thrown in for a little bit of fun. But I didn't, you know, I'm with you. I'm not a huge fan of the prequels, though they have good things in them. And I'm definitely not a fan of the last three movies that make up the last trilogy. I mean, though that might be the weakest
I just think
Star
that that
Wars
has
of
the
it
least
all.
amount, least staying power. Like I don't hear anybody
Yeah.
talking about those movies anymore, so I don't think anybody's like nobody cares so much about what happens to Ray and Finn and all those characters right now. Like it's all focused on the Mandalorian and whatever else. It's whatever they choose to focus on, and maybe this was the wrong thing to focus on at this time. I don't know.
Well, in theory, I like the idea of the acolyte. And I like as I said, the real tragedy of this show is that there are lots of interesting ideas that are buried in there that could have been a much better show. And I don't know. I don't know why it isn't a better show.
Yeah, it seems like
Yeah.
it should have been, but it isn't. And I think that you have to take the good, take the bad. What's the thing? The facts of life. How does that go? You take the
Fine.
good, take the bad.
The world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you might not be right for some.
There we
What
go.
theme song is that?
Different
Do you know that?
strokes,
Oh,
different
good.
strokes,
Good for
baby.
you.
We should have that. That'd be a fun game. All you have to do is say the words to
Oh,
me and see if I can get the song. That'd be fun.
we should do that sometime. We'll do it
Yeah.
on Media Nerds.
Yeah. That's good media nerds.
TV
Okay.
theme. Oh, that could be good.
Yes. And that's good words of wisdom, right? Different strokes to move the world.
Right. Different strokes for different folks. So if you love this, God bless you. If you didn't love it, God bless you.
But let
And
us know either way. I'm curious to
yeah,
know how many people out there actually liked it because I haven't talked to.
yeah.
I saw one person, a friend of mine on TikTok, was saying that they finally started watching it yesterday, and even the first episode, they're like, "What is this?" And I think we were all asking that question after the first episode, but I told them that it wasn't worth going through it all.
What's funny about that is I didn't mind the first two episodes because they're just laying groundwork here. This is gonna be great. Episode 3 is really gonna. And episode 3 is where it just for me took the absolute nosedive.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
true.
I don't care. I don't care about these witches. I don't care about these twins. I don't care. Something still exploded that we have no explanation for. Like
Right.
there's don't worry, you're gonna see it again. And so we see it again, and there's still no explanation for that
Never
stuff.
mind that May killed like Kalnaka
I
and
know.
Carrie Ann Moss and like
Yes.
it's just and what's his name kill himself for
Yeah.
no real reason. I don't think he really needed to kill himself. That kid Torben, like we don't. It's
No.
so strange,
And
right?
the witches haunted Torben's mind and
Torben,
possessed the Wookiee. So why are you blaming the Wookiee for anything?
right? And Torben,
Yes.
Torben is killing himself because Soul killed her mom. Like what did
Yes.
Torben do wrong in that situation? Right? Like he didn't need to be the victim there. Anyway.
Yeah, those twins are the murderers
Yeah.
who need to be avenged, who need to be taken out
Well, Soul
because
also murdered somebody, so
by
inadvertent
mistake.
manslaughter.
Right, manslaughter. And let's not forget, she turned into a spooky, creepy mist creature of some kind. And who? It doesn't make any sense. She didn't say, I'm going to turn into a mist creature now. And just so you know, you shouldn't be afraid. She just did it and it went woo, like scary.
It kind of reminded me of in the Matrix. Again, Matrix, when
Yeah.
those two guys go into ghost mode and they like
Yeah.
go through the cars and the chase scene.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it was. And it's funny because those guys could control their density, right? They could be
Yeah.
solid if they wanted to be, but it didn't in the Matrix. And whenever they went to clouds, like everything just passed through them. So I don't know. It seems weird that the lightsaber would do anything to that. But anyway, okay.
None of it makes any sense.
None
And
of it makes sense. No.
The twins are the murderers because they murdered with intent. and the others made mistakes. The others just made assumptions. So
Mhm.
I think I don't know. I noticed yesterday in the Star Wars feed on X, they said the Acolyte really made us see the Jedi from a different perspective. I was like, that's supposed to be the takeaway? And so I wrote in the comments, I said, yeah, those two murdering twins really changed my view of the Jedi and like what the Jedi are up to. Like, give me a break. There was a murderer from square one in this show. I don't know. I think in a court of law, I have a feeling that one of those was manslaughter and the other ones were murder.
Yeah, first degree.
You know?
Yeah, premeditated.
And yeah, but they let May off the hook because she can't remember anything.
She can't remember. Yeah, so she didn't actually commit any crimes because she can't remember her crimes.
I have a sister.
And then that was pretty
Yeah.
rough at the end there, where she was just can't remember anything. Okay, let's let it go. We have to let it go, Kenton.
We'll let it go.
Fine, let's move on.
Just like they did in Frozen.
Okay.
Although next week, if we're having a Star Wars intervention, we're not really letting it go till next.
No, we're gonna take a break. Let's do Media Nerds
Okay.
next week. I want to talk about streaming services and the current landscape of that, and then we'll come back to Star Wars and we'll go back and forth. Now that the series is over, we'll go back and forth from Star Wars to media. So next week, Media Nerds, and then we'll come back to Star Wars. So we'll give it time to breathe, and then see how we feel in a couple of weeks.
Time to breathe. Tell that to Master Soul.
Oh,
Hello.
too soon.
He
Right.
needed. Forget it.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Star Wars Nerds. I'm Dan Vadabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the Force hit you in the ass.
Going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
Now I am the master.
I'm taking an awful risk, mate.